Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. We're live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at Fifth Estate. Also live on Facebook and on YouTube. We have the crucial conversations that Erie needs, and we're going to go back to the Millcreek Government conversation, and we're bringing in a different perspective with Grant Filbeck. He was part of the opposition to the change, and which was an unsuccessful effort because the voters did speak. But I want to kind of get your perspective. Grant, welcome back. Good to see you, sir.
It's great to be here, and it's great to see you, and thanks for having me on.
You got it here. Let's remind listeners again, kind of the two different perspectives on the Millcreek Government Study Commission. And we have to remember that, first off, the voters had to say, we want a commission to study this thing, right?
Absolutely. So in 2024, there was a study commission question that was placed on the ballot. It was placed on the general election ballot for the presidential election. It passed. And then,
a lot of participation on the 2024.
A lot of people came and voted for the first time,
right.
or they just vote in those elections. And of course, they wanted to investigate the government because that's kind of how people are.
Right.
And then they elected some study commissioners who are all great individuals, by the way.
Yeah.
And they started a study starting in early of 2025, and they concluded it in about May or June, in between that time period, recommending that we switch to in my opinion, a borough form of government where we have a manager and a township council that's less than part-time. And that was the ballot question that was placed on the ballot in November. Do you want to switch from our current form to this form, which is a manager council style? And it passed 56-44 across the board. But I think that a lot of people might not necessarily know what they were voting for. There's a lot of things on the ballot. There's a lot of vote yes or no questions on the ballot, Supreme Court retention. But also, as some people say, I respect the will of the voters, and we're going to work in this system, and we're all friends at the end of the day. But I wanted to come on here just to discuss it with you, kind of talk to you about some things that are being said in the community. And, I'm a big civility guy. I want to bring people together. And the divisiveness has not stopped, surprise, surprise, since the vote. And that's why I'm here.
Why is that? Because, I mean, you look at the aftermath of what has happened. Okay, let's just face it.
Yeah.
The elephant in the room is that this whole thing started with the Gateway project,
correct,
and and what was deemed as a wrong way to go about doing development from the township, and they don't like the general authority. They didn't like that they spent $7 million on acquiring properties, and a township supervisor lost their job, which is Dan Ouellette, lost their job in the primary, basically over that one particular situation. Is that an accurate statement or an accurate count?
I would say there would be other things that were up on the table there, but yes, I think that's an accurate statement. That's what the motivation of this group of individuals was. They were upset. I think there's a lot of things I could say about why they were upset. I won't go there.
Right.
However, Supervisor Ouellette, who, again, these positions aren't partisan. I don't care that he's a Republican. I think he did a great job as supervisor. He was, and maybe that's why I like him, but he was defeated in the primary in a landslide by a more conservative candidate. And I think you see that across the board, though, where, the moderate, middle of the road Republicans are being that's a national conversation, but
sure
being ticked off in the primary.
I can see a little bit of that, but I think it was more of Ouellette's support of the Gateway, and again, we don't even need to talk about the Gateway because we're talking about the study commission. But that was kind of and I use the word with Art Algieri. It was the trigger, and it just seemed like that motivated the activist class in Millcreek to say, we're going to do this. And so Ouellette loses his job.
Yep.
And now the voters have spoken 56-44.
Yep.
That we are going to altogether change how we do business and so, yeah, like you say, you can't.
To me, the situation that happened is these people were upset about a decision that certain supervisors made, and you can see that across the board, right? You can see that from their public statements, their private statements, things that they say on your show, actually. And you can see that's what triggered them to do this. What they did was they said, oh, we didn't like a decision that they made. Let's blow up the whole system and start it from new. Instead of doing what they should have done, which is what they did to Supervisor Ouellette, where you can primary people, you can beat them in a general election, and that happens.
Now, probably if I were to have some individuals, that were on that study commission, because we have to make sure we establish that the commission is over. Yeah,
very much over.
They're done. Although there's some chatter that says they would like to have a participation in the transition, and I don't even know what that looks like yet. But we'll get to that in a second. But there are probably some people that would say, "Hey, we this is long overdue." The last time this came up, in fact, this was part of the original conversation, is that when they looked at the government, what was it, in 20 years ago?
No,
was
2011.
Yeah. Okay, so about 15 years ago, that was not a fully looked into situation, and they decided not to change government. That the government should have been changed all along, because look at all the other similar large townships across the Commonwealth. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what they wanted to do. So they were upset that the previous study commission did not want to change the form of government. Yeah. So what they decided to do is they wanted to, and again, this is my opinion on it, downgrade our government to make it less government, right? It's objectively, it's less government, paying more to bureaucrats across the board. However, that works.
That's an interesting take, Grant.
It is, but it's the truth. And if you read their report again, this manager, who this board of council members are going to appoint, can make upwards of $164,000 a year. Right. I mean, it's out of control. That's ridiculous. But a population of 55,000, which is what Millcreek is, we deserve a full-time representative in government. So that was my whole beef with it, because I don't want to go to a part-time person who, again, is doing community services, being a public servant, just like the study commission is. However, they are going to be preoccupied with other things. They might have another job. They might be retired. They might be going to Florida if they're retired. They might be working 3 jobs to provide for their family. It doesn't allow individuals who have multiple types of jobs or incomes to take a break from that and go into public service and make an income as a supervisor. Again, you're not trying to profit off the role, but make an income. That's the issue that I have with it, where we need someone in Millcreek that's full-time. You can see in the city, you can see in the county, we have 2 great new elected county executive and mayor. Yeah. I think they're going to do a really good job because they're full-time and they can commit themselves to the job. If you're part-time, it's going to be a lot harder, in my opinion.
Well, they're looking at the model of city council. They're looking at the model of county council. In fact, they rejected the county council model of a district-based representation. They went to an at-large basis.
Right.
The question is, to your point, will someone, let's say your age or Shaney's age, raising kids, fully involved in their careers, be able to have the bandwidth to also serve as a council member for Millcreek?
And so that's what I've been doing since November. I've been contacting people who are my age or a little bit older than me, or all the way up to 50, 55-year-old individuals saying, hey, run for this.
Boy, that's old.
No.
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
No, that's still young.
Right.
But I've been asking people, I've been saying, hey, consider putting this on your radar. I've been asking Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah. Put
this on your radar. We need people who come in with no agenda, who are ready to get to work, and most importantly now, because we're going to be paying a very high-level bureaucrat a lot of money to make that decision to hire a good person, which that's going to be their job.
Yeah. You're not concerned about, you're really like labeling this manager of I mean, think of it this way. We've got authority people that run authorities.
Absolutely.
That are experts in those fields. I mean, and they make decent money.
Absolutely.
Are they just bureaucrats?
No, and I think when I'm saying that, I'm using a talking point. I think the point of my criticism of this is that this person is going to be qualified, hopefully, but it might not be. It could be your brother's cousin's friend who needs a job. It could be John Smith.
That's not what I'm hearing from members of the commission. They're saying we're going to get an expert in
maybe
master's degree, an MBA, to run this very effectively. What do you
think that I want what's best for Millcreek, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So if they do find someone who is a highly qualified individual who knows how local government works, that's great, right? That person has no accountability to the voters, and it's different than business, right? So I know Mr. Allegeri mentioned, this is business. Business, you hire your CEO and we're the board of directors. That's great. That's not government. Government has to be accountable to the people. And then one other thing that he mentioned was, well, they could be gone tomorrow. The board can vote for them.
Right.
If you have 3 people who are riding and dying for Joel, you're the new township manager, right? We're never going to fire you. You're going to stay in that job because you have 3 people who are best buds with you. And that's how I think it's going to end up going. It's not discounting the role of borough managers or township managers. I think there's excellent ones, especially here in Erie County for other municipalities. But for Millcreek, I want someone who's elected, who can be primary, such as Dan Ouellette, or such as John Groh, who lost re-election as a supervisor. They need to be held accountable to the voters.
We've got Grant Filbeck with us. Another take on this Millcreek Government deal. Again, gotta love politics in Millcreek. It's 4:18. Back in a bit. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show on a Monday. Grant Filbeck is with us here. Grant, take some phone calls. I'll leave the phones open for you.
Yeah, for sure.
814-679-1080. Got to ask you, I think the winningness argument that the Government Study Commission had is that every other large township in the Commonwealth has this form of government, manager council, or something very similar.
Sure.
That was pretty compelling.
I think to some voters, absolutely. I think people came up to me right after the election, real life. I put my hand on a Bible, and they said, they were like, I thought we were voting for this real quote. I thought we were voting for 5 more Kim Clears to join her on supervisor. And I said, what? And they're like, 5 more full-time supervisors. And I said, no. I said, it's completely changing what we're doing. And like I said to you earlier, I think we need to work with it. Obviously, I respect the will of the voters in that sense. But if you even ask some voters who voted in it, they'll be like, I don't remember how I voted in that one. And you're like, well, and they're like, oh, no, I don't support that. Or I support that. And
right.
I think there was a lot of information on that ballot. And there's a lot of signs that said vote yes for other things. And I think maybe people got confused. I do think, obviously, there was a majority who voted to change the form of government. And I respect that, though.
And again, what was surprising about the outcome, and again, it was a 6-point outcome, right, was that you had the Government Study Commission, the yes won on that. And again, all observances of that was that this is more of a Republican vote, but then had Kylie Morris win for supervisor, and that's what just got me shocked.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kylie's a fantastic individual, and
sure,
I thought that she had a good shot. I didn't think it would be that big of a blowout.
Well,
right?
you would thought that there would have been alignment.
Right.
Of if the study commission won, the Republican would win, Harry Morgan would win.
Right.
But it's not how it came.
No, and it was a blue wave across the board.
Yeah.
I would say that was a very competitive race. But I would also say that I think voters had a lot on their minds, and maybe the study commission, especially if you went to their town halls, there wasn't a lot of people who showed up to them.
Right.
About 30 people max. And I think people were just voting in the moment.
Yeah,
I was trying to convince someone outside of a precinct not to vote.
It's really abstract to say, okay, we might be, this is how we're going to do this.
I'll tell you, there was a study commissioner standing outside a precinct, and I was talking to a voter who came up to me. I didn't solicit, and they said, well, how should I vote on this? And I said, you should vote no, here's why. And then the person was calling me a liar in front of this woman.
Oh,
and then the woman came out and said, she goes, because he called you a liar, I voted no on it. And I said, thank you. She goes, I had no idea it was on the ballot, though. And I was like, I appreciate it.
Right.
She goes, that was balls. Oh, it was
messy. Yeah.
And I said, yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Can you put a headset on? We're going to grab a phone call here.
Oh, no.
Hi, you're live with Grant Filbeck here and on the Joel Natale Show. Go ahead.
Hey, Joel. How's it going today? I don't know why I'm weighing in because I live in Girard, but I grew up in Millcreek my whole life.
Okay.
I grew up in Millcreek as a kid. My grandfather retired as a Millcreek cop. My dad retired from Millcreek. So I've seen the way that it's gone for a long time. And I hear from a lot of people that, I know the ins and outs of it, and I know the good stuff because my dad worked there for close to 30 years. And the form of government with there being 2 supervisors against 1 all the time, I think that the people in Millcreek are just ready for a change altogether. The 2 against 1 thing, it just doesn't work.
We have seen some really knockdown dragouts, haven't we, out there?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to I know every supervisor in Millcreek since 1986 when I figured out I could listen as a small kid and hear all the stuff.
Right.
My dad had to deal with it every day, and it's always. Like the whole thing with them buying all the property, the Peninsula Gateway deal, and now buying the Zemzem property. Like, yeah, it's a good thing, but there's a lot of stuff in Millcreek that needs done, and it's a 2 against 1 vote. And Bach has been they've been going against him for the last couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And he seems like he's more of a fiscal-minded, responsible person. Kim Clear is an ex-teacher. I'm not taking anything away from teachers. My daughter's going to be a teacher soon, but I really don't think, and I don't, if she's listening or not, sorry, but she doesn't really have business being in government, and it's not working.
All right.
I have a friend that lives on Arcadia Drive, and his yard every year floods to the point where he can't get flood insurance, and he's been told for the last 9 years that Millcreek does not have the money to put a pipe under Route 20 to solve that issue. Wow. And they go and spend all this money on all this property, and it's not even brought before the taxpayers, and they just do what they want. So I'm really happy for the people that do live in Millcreek that there's going to be something different now. It needs to happen.
I appreciate you weighing in. I'm going to let Grant answer on the radio here. Thanks so much.
Okay,
appreciate it. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's face it. The kicking the can down the road on stormwater is the other. It might be the bigger issue than the gateway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I didn't catch his name. I don't think he gave it.
He didn't get it.
I think that the two things that stood out to me about that call was it's going to now be 3-2 or 4-1 or 5-0. It's going to be the same thing. So 2-1. It's going to be, with this new borough council, the votes are going to split the same way. If you have Democrats and Republicans, it's going to be much more partisan. The second thing, he mentioned Supervisor Bach. Yeah. Supervisor Bach has been in office since 2018. He was elected in 2017. Stormwater hasn't been fixed under his term either. So this is a thing that has been kicked the can down the road, as you mentioned. I totally agree with that. But we have to be really honest. And I also have to defend the honor of teachers. My mom is a teacher.
Sure, yeah.
And so is my dad.
Yeah.
Government belongs to everybody. So it doesn't matter what your background or your training is. As long as you want to make a difference and serve the community, that's who should be running for elected office.
Why do you think... I mean, again, there's another underlying... emotion or layer to this, and I'm not going to have enough time to explain myself fully, but I'm going to start it here, and then I'd love for the reaction. There is a significant anti-tax. I think it's in the DNA of Millcreek.
Yeah.
Of basically, lower taxes. We're never going to be the city. Again, there's that real distinctive between we don't want to be like the city of Erie. We're going to keep our taxes low. But doesn't that bind up the community, which is basically the second largest municipality in all of northwestern Pennsylvania?
Right.
Is Millcreek Township.
Correct.
Heck, if it was 10 miles further out from the city, it would be its city. It's much bigger than Corey, right? Which is a city. There's such an allergy to taxes with Millcreek, both school taxes and municipal taxes, that causes these issues of we don't have a really good answer, because to fix the stormwater would crush us.
Right.
And it's not true, though, I don't think.
Well, I think that when it comes to taxes, of course, no one wants to raise taxes. No one wants to raise taxes and have less services, which that's, I think, what some people would say about other municipalities, right?
Yeah.
So you pay more taxes, but you get less out of the taxes, right? I think when it comes to Millcreek, the future of the township relies on people who want to see the best place forward. The flooding is a true issue, but what would need to be done for that? If you talk to the streets guys, if you talk to engineers, I mean, it's going to take a mountain.
It's tens of millions of dollars.
And we would need a federal help, probably from a grant.
Well, yeah, you'd be looking to Mike Kelly and McCormick and Fetterman for the white flag. Right. Grant Filbeck is our guest here, talking Millcreek Township, the number 2 municipality in our listening area. Back after the news. Sometimes if you're talking Millcreek politics, you need the eye of the tiger. It's the Joel Natale Show, live on your radio, also online at YouTube and on Facebook. We're talking to Grant Filbeck. He has another perspective about the Millcreek government transition. And Grant, we've been talking about Millcreek politics. It is rough and tumble, to say the least. And we have another caller here to weigh in. Hi, caller. You're live with Grant and Joel.
Hi, Joel. This is Matt Plotz calling. How are you?
I'm doing, Matt. Doing well, Matt. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you have Grant on. One of the things about Grant, I work with him quite a bit on other things. What he does well is it's always a well-thought-out, well-positioned argument. So what he's talking about here, I feel like he did his homework and obviously didn't go his way. The one thing before you went to break, you mentioned the stormwater and the difficulty and just the complexity of that project. One of the big problems is it's not like that sexy thing that you have, like the gateway or something like that. It's kind of a project that has to be done, and it is huge. You've mentioned on one of your other shows with another guest how important Erie County is to the country overall. We're kind of that bellwether county. Those kind of projects, we have to start working with Mike Kelly and our congressmen and senators to kind of, drive that home and get that done. So that's just one thing I wanted to add. We got to take advantage of who we are right now, and we're that county that can swing an election.
That's a really excellent insight. I appreciate it, Matt. Talk to you on Friday, bro.
Yep, see ya.
See ya. Again, Dr. Matthew Plotz, he's got the Community Chronicle show Friday mornings at 8 here on Talk Erie. But what, here's the thing. Whether it is stormwater in Millcreek, or it is getting water to the McCain Business Park, or what other, major community projects that should we be, moving our heft around, moving our weight around?
I definitely think so. And I think that, I call him Doctor. It's Dr. Plotz.
Yeah, Dr. Plotz.
He's the man. I think that he brings up a great point. And I'm all for civility. I'm all about working together. That's the goal, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that there needs to be something from our federal delegation working with our local officials to find that type of funding to help with the stormwater fee and just the simple things. I know this is very off topic, but even with this proposed naval shipyard, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a great idea, and that should be championed by all of our leaders because it will bring jobs, and then it will bring the downstream jobs too. Mm-hmm. So these are the things that I wish a lot of our government focused on across the board, from local all the way up to federal. But as he mentioned, it's not the sexiest
right. It's
thing to talk about. It's infrastructure, and that's something, there was an infrastructure bill a couple years back. I wish that it moved faster. I wish that we could have applied for funding for it because I feel like that would have been a good time to do it. But yeah, I totally agree with him. And working together is always better than working alone.
The I don't want the time to get away from us because I want to look at this timeline. I went with it with Mr. Algieri, and there's some proposals out there of what the transition committee would look like. Is that built into the statute? No. What is codified right now, Grant, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I don't want to speak as an expert because I'm not in this particular area. What the former study commission members want, from what I've gathered, is that they want to be a part of the transition to make the rules for the new government coming in.
Is there legislation that is in effect that governs how this transition is going to come out?
I'm aware of.
There's nothing at the Commonwealth side of things?
I don't believe so. I think it's on them to make that transition, to move them forward to the borough council format or township council.
Who does this? The
current supervisors.
Okay.
And I want to say, our current supervisors, all three of them are doing a decent job, right? They're doing a good job. It's 2 years away, and this is the thing that I've been telling voters and friends of mine who've been asking me. Said, "Hey, what's going on?" Obviously, the election is next year, November of 2027. But
to do the council
the
members.
borough or the township council, right?
Yeah.
3 of them will be up, and then Kylie Morris and Jim Bach will be bumped down to part-time. And then there'll be 5
because they're going to serve out their 6 years no matter what.
Exactly, because they will be the last supervisors elected for those terms.
Yes.
This is the analogy I've been saying. So Donald Trump, who's president, he's term limited in 2028 or 2029, I should say. It would be like him starting a transition to Gavin Newsom or him starting a transition to J.D. Vance right now. That's what they're asking us to do, in my opinion. No president does that. There's a transition period, and again, this is local, back to local. There will be a transition period next year where they're saying, here's what's going on, but also what's the transition that's actually going to happen. One of the things that I know the supervisors, all 3 of them have mentioned, it's not just one, it's not just the other, is that they want to get a pool of qualified applicants for the borough manager position. So when the new part-time council comes in, the old supervisors, which there'll be 2 who are still on there, can say, here's a list of all the different people who've applied, here's all their credentials, here's why they want the job, and then that board can make that decision. They won't like go through them, but they will say, here's some people who are qualified.
All right, I'm hearing that between the election, November whatever, in 2027, and by the end of January of 2028, we would have enough data that the new council would be able to pick a manager within 30 days of taking the oath.
I think that's what some of the supervisors would say. That's my opinion of that.
So they're confident that could still happen.
I think so. I don't understand what exactly the former study commission would like to do in a transition.
But Mr. Algieri seemed to think that this could be done quickly. Like that they would
it can be done next year. It doesn't have to be right now. They
no,
years.
It wouldn't be. Yeah.
And
so what needs to happen right now? Nothing. Okay.
In my opinion, we still have a year and a half before we really need to start moving into that direction.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to come on today, because I think that there's been a lot of information being swirled around. Now, anyone who disagrees with these people on social media is immediately blocked. So you won't see any of us disagreeing with them on Facebook or anywhere else. However, I think people just want the government to govern for a little bit and not make this into a weaponized. That's why I came on again. I said, hey, can I come on because they're doing it, they're coming on. The goal, though, is that our government should be working, and then they can do the transition as they're getting closer.
I want to be fair, though. We asked the question of what's next. We had this huge election.
Right.
And it was like, okay, well, what does this mean? I literally was trying to know. And so it's helpful to talk to Mr. Algieri. It's helpful to talk to Mr. Filbeck.
And he has a different view than me, and that's totally cool.
Well, and they're talking about some kind of a transition team that would be 3 at-large, 2 members of the commission, and one of the supervisors, and more than likely it'd be Bach.
Well, of course. Yeah. And I think what they said in their initial report was that the consultants that they hired would be the people who would be guiding through the transition for them. So that's my opinion of it. I'm not saying that's a fact, but I think that's what I recall correctly. And Millcreek taxpayers would pay them about $50K to do that.
I'm just surprised that there's no roadmap to this trend. I mean, because literally,
in Supervisor
you could have a situation where come next spring, not this spring, next spring, we go to municipal elections, and we're going to have a bunch of people wanting to be part of a part-time council for Millcreek.
And I think there's going to be a lot of people who run. A lot of people who run. And I think because now you've lowered the barriers, and it's a part-time job. But Supervisor Bach is the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. All questions should be directed to him.
Okay. That's a good
they
point.
like to say, this supervisor is doing this supervisor is doing another thing. And I want to say, the buck stops with the most experienced person on the board, and Supervisor Bach is that person.
Yeah. And
he should be laying out a plan if that's what he believes they need to be doing right now. But I feel like the only criticism is against Supervisor Clear and now Supervisor Morris, who are being, I think, unfairly punched on, metaphorically.
I'm seeing some crazy videos on supervisor meetings. What is that all about?
I think the decorum is breaking down across the board, and that's something that I am very, very much against. Again, I think when I say low-level government, I mean it's not like the U.S. Senate, right? I'm talking about your very local government. I think you can see even from a couple years ago in the school board cases, those low level of government, they do a lot of work that make our lives a lot better. Our schools, our roads, things like that. And not a lot of people pay attention to it, which is okay because people have lives to have. However, it leads to a lot of incivility and a lot of anger at those meetings. And I think a lot of beat ups on. And I'm not putting down the caller who just called, but criticizing a former teacher who ran for office. Everyone had a former career before they were in office. That doesn't mean anything.
There seems to be a level of redress of grievances going on. So we had the Millcreek fire chief on, and got blowback about that. And again, there just seems to be a lot of folks that are living way in the past of the old Millcreek when it was rural and making money hand over fist.
There's a small group of very loud individuals, and I'm not pointing fingers or anything.
Yeah.
They are very, very, very loud, and they will criticize anything that is going on. These people sit on a Facebook group called All Things Millcreek, and they just roast anyone who disagrees with them, and then heaven forbid you go in there and jump in and defend someone's honor, right? And they will call you names. They will block you. They will limit your comments. You're not allowed to fight. So it seems like it's this echo chamber.
So what's the outcome that this group is looking for?
I think they want power.
Okay.
And they want it their way. And they were against McDowell, the no new McDowell this was before my time.
Oh, yeah.
But they're against anything that's changing. The Gateway Project, again, I think the supervisors across the board could have done a much better job presenting things across the board.
Sure.
Progress takes time.
We're not going to give them A's for their communication
definitely
skills.
not. And I think if we have to see what happens. In 10 years, if that place is still a bunch of weeds, which it won't be, and it's not bringing any tax revenue, then we can criticize them. But things take time, and I think with local government, they want things to be done.
Well, and I'm hearing that there are proclamations imminent for the Gateway, like that. There's some big stuff coming down. So
people want to be a part of it. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know why people hate their hometown sometimes, because Millcreek is beautiful, and we have Presque Isle right there. And do you want it to be the dilapidated old Joe Roots grill, or do you want something really nice there that can bring tax revenue and people down there to enjoy it? That's my position.
And I still don't understand why this, why the again, I know a fire department is expensive.
Right.
We've had a police department in Millcreek for decades.
Right. Which are all great guys, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're very known as being high caliber, highly professional law enforcement outfit.
They are, and the fire department's going to be the same way.
Well, and the fire department is built out of necessity, that the old model was not cutting it for what basically is the second largest municipality. I keep on saying it.
No,
second largest municipality in Northwest Pennsylvania.
A lot of our houses are older. They were built in 1950 or 1946 or 1960.
Even 1970s. That's 50 years old.
More exposed to fire elements. The fire department are full of great people as well. And I just don't understand. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't understand beating up on police officers and firemen who put their lives on the line for us. I'm willing to pay that tax.
All right, so let's bring the plane in for landing here. Grant Filbeck is with us. So you're advocating like a year of quiet. And
let them work on that Gateway project.
Them work. Okay,
let them work on whatever stormwater. Do whatever they need to do.
What if I'm a Millcreek citizen right now and saying, heck, I've got some bandwidth, I've got some ideas, I'd like to run for council next year. What should I be doing?
I think you should be mastering the ideas and the conversations that have been going on.
Like go into the meetings.
Go
watch the YouTubes,
meetings, and see what's going on, and then don't have an agenda when you go in. And like I said, I've been talking to people left and right. I've been like, hey man, you should run for this. Hey, you should run for this. and it's Democrats and Republicans who I've been talking to. We need people who want to come in. There's no agenda. There's nothing to get out of it other than the public service. That's like my whole mission in life, is to bring public service back to being an honorable profession. And we need to find those people. That would be the thing that I would say, if you're interested in running for office and you're in Millcreek, Democrat or Republican, who's serious about wanting to get to work and actually solve some issues, run for that
How many signatures do you need?
10. Yep. Okay. Which I think needs
super
to be
easy. Yeah.
Well, and that's not necessarily clarified, but for supervisor right now it's 10.
Okay.
So I think that threshold might need to be a little higher, because you're going to have.
But I think that's all set at the
county level.
Is it at the county level or the state level? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask you a question I asked Art Algieri, and that is this manager. What is this manager like? And again, there are people with master's degrees in organizational leadership. They can get that degree, or at least pretty sure they could get that degree at Mercyhurst or Gannon, right? You can get a PhD, or at least they used to. But it also feels like, in reading some of the documents, it felt like, man, this manager has to be Superman. What do you think? What kind of manager would work?
So I think we should have a national search.
Sure.
And pay them that $150,000. That's what the report initiated. Pay them a good salary.
And there are headhunters. There are government headhunters, right?
Exactly. Hire someone who does that. Find that person who has managed a township our size, which you're going to have a hard time doing.
But maybe a little bit smaller.
Maybe a little smaller. Who wants to come and make a difference in Erie. I think you can see, and I don't mean to out him in that way, but our new chamber president, he's amazing, right? He's not from here. Outside ideas can make really good. Outside ideas can come in and make good decisions. So that's why I would recommend find someone with an MPA or a DPA who knows how public administration works, knows how government works. Maybe someone who has experience serving in government as well. That would be a really cool person, and it needs to be someone who is renowned for their abilities. Millcreek deserves that. Can't just be your brother's cousin's friend.
It makes me wonder. I'm just kind of blue skying here.
Yeah.
Do you want somebody that is from, for all lack of better words, do you want somebody from the Rust Belt that understands the context of a former manufacturing giant that's still, trying to make a go of it? Or would you rather have somebody from outside that context, maybe from a North Carolina or a Tennessee, that has tasted what it's like to be
in the new wave?
In the new wave, yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what I mentioned when it comes to that naval dockyard that hopefully we can get. I think there's a huge opportunity right now to have a huge reset in our economy, and of course keeping our manufacturing, keeping your insurance, heaven forbid, but
meds and eds,
everyone there. But I think you could bring someone exactly right. So it could be someone from a Rust Belt town who flipped the script, or it could be someone from coastal Carolina who has the same kind of situation that you just said.
And they have really good baseball down there. Anyway,
I just want what's best. That's it.
Yeah. To be continued. I think that's where I ended up with Art Algieri. Like this is a story
absolutely
that is not written. The book is not completed yet.
We're living chapter to chapter.
Yeah.
And if you ever want me and Art to sit with you,
absolutely.
I love Art. I think he's a funny dude.
Yeah. Well, and again, very successful business person.
Absolutely.
I think about Paul Wojtek, again, amazing steward of our water authority. Jim Deedat, again, super smart. Again, a lot of people with really good intentions making it happen, and the voters do speak.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This won't be the last time you're on this show, I don't think, Grant. All righty. It's 4:54. Thanks so much for taking the time.
I appreciate it, guys.
You got it. More after this.